Hello, Feuzion. My name is Alex Fuse, and you are watching a brand new Sports Fusion episode. And on today's show, once again, Jason Romano, who is a Mike and Mike producer for ESPN. So, Jason, how are you doing this afternoon?
Alex, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on, my friend.
Yeah, no problem, anytime. And I want to talk to you about my experience last week on Thursday. I had the honor of going down to ESPN studios, and I want to say thanks for inviting me down there. I had a lot of fun, and thanks again for that.
You're welcome. I'm glad you were able to make the trip and
Yeah.
hope you had a good time.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to talk to you about, I just talked with Jerry Krasnick, who is also an ESPN.com reporter, and I asked him the main question about Tim Tebow. How is he going to be in the MLB? And I want to ask you, what is your opinion about Tim Tebow playing in the MLB?
You know, Tim Tebow had a great answer last week when he was asked about it. He said, "Why wouldn't I try something that I love to do?"
Mm-hmm.
And I think, he just brings with him such a spotlight and, in some ways a criticism that come with who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I love about him, and I like a lot about him, but the one thing I love about him is that he just doesn't really care what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
He does what he wants to do. Now, he, could he have continued to play in the NFL and maybe even switch positions? Maybe. But he wanted to be an NFL quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And when NFL teams weren't calling him anymore, then it was time to put that to bed for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so he thought about what else can he do, and he's had a passion for baseball, I guess, since he was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a ridiculously in shape athlete,
Mm-hmm.
and you can just watch in some of the highlights and video that you've seen of him taking batting practice last week when he had his workout for teams.
Mm-hmm.
That he's still a pretty good athlete. Now, from the eye test, and I'm not a scout or anything like that, I don't pretend to be.
Mm-hmm.
He looked okay, but he's 29 years old, and he's kind of behind the eight ball and trying to make it into baseball. But why not try? Like,
Yeah.
you got nothing to lose. You and I told you this last week. You have a dream, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And he has dreams, and he has a lot of interest, obviously, in and outside of sports.
Mm-hmm.
He's a broadcaster, and, he obviously had, I would say, a short-lived, but I think it was successful football career.
Mm-hmm.
And now he wants to try baseball, so all the power to him. I don't know if he'll make it
Right.
into the majors. I highly doubt it. The odds are very, very much
Mm-hmm.
against him. But good on him for trying.
Yeah. And, okay, we'll switch gears now. And another controversial NFL player right now is Colin Kaepernick. And I want to ask you, what is your take on him? And now there's news that he is donating money back to his local neighborhood, I believe. I think that's what the story was this morning. So what do you think about Colin Kaepernick, and should the 49ers start him come week 1?
Well, to answer the last question, should they start him? I don't think so, because he's obviously not won the job.
Mm-hmm.
If he had won the job, or if he had shown in preseason or even in the mini camps or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that he was, the guy, I think Chip Kelly would have put him in there. But they didn't give it to him. They gave it to Blaine Gabbert,
Mm-hmm.
and that's on field. That's what it is. He's a backup quarterback. And I think he's got a lot of tools and talent, and if he could figure that out,
Mm-hmm.
he fits pretty well into what appears to be the Chip Kelly offense and scheme that they run. But off the field, at first, when I saw that he sat during the national anthem, and I'll just talk about it from a fan perspective, I guess. I was talking about it with my buddies, and we were just like, "What is he doing? Come on, man! That's the flag. Stand up for it." We had our original thought was just that he was being selfish or whatever, just drawing attention to himself. But the more I've listened to him speak, the more I've listened to other people talk about the topic, and the more I've tried to learn what his point was in doing what he did.
Mm-hmm.
I respect the heck out of what he's doing. I don't agree with sitting for the national anthem. I think there are other ways to do it, but I totally respect his right to do that. I mean, that's why people are fighting for our freedoms all over the world, is for him to be able to exercise that right to do what he did.
Yeah.
And obviously his intention was to bring attention to it. And it did. And it continues to be talked about, not only after, but throughout the last few days, and we were 9 days later that he did this, and we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
So in the sense of what he was trying to accomplish, I think he got people talking. I think the discussion needs to fast forward a little bit from what he did to the point he was trying to make, which is that there is a lot of still racial injustice and inequality going on in the country that needs to be addressed. So good on him for exercising his right. I think he could have chose a different route. I will always stand for the national anthem, but at a sporting event or anything like that. But good on him for having the right to be able to exercise that and try to bring attention to a thing that is in desperate need of bringing more attention to.
Yeah, definitely. I have to agree with you on that. And okay, we'll switch gears to the MLB now. And with the pennant race coming up, there has to be conversation about the Chicago Cubs, as they're definitely probably going to be winning over 100 games this season. And can the Cubs win a World Series, which they had not done in over 100 years? And I want to ask you, do you think the Cubs could potentially win the 2016 World Series this year?
If there's ever a year that they need to win the World Series this year, they are the best team in baseball. They have been from the very beginning, and I'm not quite sure when you look back at their long history that they've ever been the best team and dominated in any year like they've done this year in a long time. So they better win it, and I mean that in a way where when you haven't won it in 100 years and you feel like your franchise is cursed, and then you go out and will do what you've done in the regular season this year and dominate on both sides from pitching and offense and defense, they kind of have to win it this year. And they have more pressure on them, I believe, than any team this season and than any team that's had in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, when you when you dominate a season like this and you have that sort of curse on you that you've had on for over 100 years, man, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So will they win it? I don't know. They're definitely the favorites. I think they're the team that on paper looks like they should roll through the playoffs. The National League is, in my opinion, fairly weak outside of the Cubs. The Nationals are they're pretty good.
Yeah.
The Dodgers are trying to get Kershaw back, and then the wild card is always a wild card. It's the Giants and the Cardinals and the Mets, and all three of those teams are playoff tested and have been in the playoffs the last few years and had success in the playoffs. So it'll be tough. The road is never easy, but man, they are just stacked. And if they can just put all that together for a month run, and I think they can do it. And I think being there last year and getting swept by the Mets when they were clearly the better team on paper, at least when the Mets and the Cubs faced each other, I think that leaves a little bit of a bitter taste in their mouth. And I think they really can utilize the fact that they lost last year and that they got there, but they didn't quite have enough to get over the hump. I think they can use that as motivation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And before we wrap up this interview, I want to ask you a little bit about the American League. Who do you think is the better team around? There's a few teams in there now. The Red Sox, you got the Blue Jays, the Texas Rangers. So who is your favorite for the American League?
I've been following the American League closely. I'm a Mets fan, just as a baseball fan. I'm a New York Mets fan. But I follow the American League living here in the Northeast where Boston and New York play, obviously, Toronto. It's a crapshoot. It really is. I mean, Texas has the best record right now as we speak, but Cleveland's got something going on there that I think is special. And not a lot of people are talking about them. This might be the year of Cleveland with the way the Cavaliers won the title, and now the Indians playing so well. But I got to lean towards one of the American League East teams because the offense of Toronto, the offense of Baltimore, and their bullpen is really good at Baltimore. Baltimore can get in. Their starting pitching is very shaky, though. And Boston looks like, when they put it all together, the most complete team in the American League. But they've been faltering a little bit, too. And they're in a neck-and-neck race right now with Toronto and Boston. Baltimore's only a game out. Even the Yankees are hanging in there and kind of making a little noise, too.
Yeah.
But I guess if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Boston.
Okay.
But I'm not real comfortable picking them at all right now. I don't know. The American League is going to be fun to watch in the playoffs because I think it's up for grabs and any team can win.
For sure. Okay, Jason, I want to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to come on this Sports Fusion episode once again.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, Feuzion Nation, you just heard it from Jason Romano. He has the Cubs and the Red Sox in the World Series, but don't hold them to it. Can the Red Sox make the playoffs? Even they're in the first place right now for the American League East. We'll find out soon. The Yankees take on the Blue Jays tonight, try to sweep them. And the Yankees haven't really been known for the sweep this year, so let's see if the Yankees can bring out the brooms. Okay, Fuse Nation, I come back here at 6:30 with John Rook, who is a voice of the New England Patriots. We'll talk to him about the sports broadcasting camp at Dean College from last summer and also some Patriot news. Okay, Fuse Nation, I will see you at 6:30.